Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Chris Gennaro, and today we have Dylan and Graham for Barishi. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Hello, all's good
Cool.
here.
I guess let's start off by talking about what you guys have coming up. I saw a post from you on Facebook from January that said you were one song away from completing writing on your new album. So I'd love to just hear about how that's going and what's happened since January.
Uh, yeah, so we pretty much have a whole new record written. I think we're at the point where we're kind of um, just working on the songs flowing into one another and stuff, and kind of working on the album as a whole rather than the individual song structures. We're also learning the songs. I kind of wrote a lot of them just using like GarageBand and stuff, and editing through GarageBand. So they're all still pretty new. We're doing a couple new songs on this tour, and so we just kind of had to learn them for the first time essentially. And so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We got a gig where we were touring as the backing band for a pop musician. So we were kind of doing that for the last we I think we started that gig essentially a year ago, like right now. And so we were gone for like maybe 5 months doing that. So that kind of put some of the Barishi stuff on hold a little bit.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that sends me in a totally different direction. Can you name the names of who you were playing with?
Yeah, we were playing with Sasami Ashworth. And
Okay.
so she was in she was in a band called Cherry Glazer. And so we did a tour with this band called Japanese Breakfast. We did a tour with Haim. We did another tour with this musician named Mitski,
Okay.
all kind of within
This
this
is all
last
pop
year.
stuff, and you're playing her music.
Yeah, I mean, like she has a I guess at this point it's not super new, but like her latest record kind of took uh, a metallic turn. So we were her band for that, and yeah, playing her music. It wasn't our stuff, just playing her music, but a lot of fun learning experience, et
In
cetera,
ter
et cetera.
in terms of pop, I'd say it's probably like some of the songs are probably about as heavy as pop is like allowed to be. It's like pretty it was definitely fun. We were definitely I know my comfort zone was like stretched, and I feel like I got more skilled in a way that maybe I wasn't like thinking about previously, like with using like a SPDSX and things like that. So it was definitely interesting and like a good learning curve.
Okay. So that was touring. Do you play on any of her music that like I could find, go into her Bandcamp or anything like that?
Uh, yeah, we play on one song on her last record. Uh,
Okay.
well, I think we recorded two, but one
Oh yeah.
made its way into the real world.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah, I think we play it. Yeah, we play on a song called "Sorry Entertainer," which is on her record.
Okay.
Which is a cover.
A cover of who?
I think is it Daniel Johnston or Daniel Johnson?
Yeah,
I can't.
Daniel
Yeah,
Johnston.
Johnston. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will put the link in the description so whoever's watching you can check that out. I guess while we're talking about pop music, let's talk about the progression of Barishi through your 5 albums, including the EP. I noticed that the first two are not on Bandcamp, and you sort of got to poke around a little bit to find that stuff. And there's definitely a progression between the first album, the EP, and then the two latest albums. So I guess want to talk about that. I know you've made some comments in interviews and stuff about how maybe the second EP it was a little heavier than the first, which I heard definitely in listening to you guys. And then I definitely think that the newest one is the heaviest stuff you've done so far.
Yeah. I mean, the uh first few things, yeah, I guess I've kind of lost count of how many we've tried to hide from the world. But it's very intentional. I think that stuff is just complete bullshit. So, very intentional, trying to save a little bit of face by doing my darndest to erase it. But the internet is they're pretty good at keeping things on there in some place. So
I've had to tell my kids that on many occasions. Don't
yeah,
read stuff that doesn't go away.
sage advice, because we're living examples of trying to erase your past and it not working. Yeah, I don't know. I think in terms of for what I've yeah, we've always just been into heavier stuff, like that heavier stuff on the spectrum. And I think only really recently, like maybe even with our last record, like we were just anywhere near good enough or confident enough as like writers and as a band to just delve into doing the kind of long song structures and like writing stuff that we'd actually listen to. I think everything else, we were just pretty much throwing songs together and then assuming that they were good, when in actuality, there's probably some pretty questionable songs on there in terms of being relatively shitty.
If it makes it
So
feel any better, I didn't think any of the old stuff was cringy at all. I mean, it was good. I mean, I don't know that your first album I would have been listening to it necessarily, but there was definitely parts in there that I really dug.
yeah, it's funny. Like I build it up into my mind as like being this just monolith of like weapons grade bullshit, and like maybe that's because I haven't listened to it in a long time. I'm pretty sure it's atomically bad. That's very nice of you to say, though. And maybe there are a couple little rays of goodness that come shining through, but but I'm also sure that like eventually I'll end up hating our last record and thinking that's complete bullshit too. So
but that's just sort of what you do as an artist, is try to grow and be a malcontent, if you will. Like that, you're not getting better unless you're always questioning your stuff. I think that's how I feel.
yeah, it's
About
a reliable disappointment, but what are you gonna do? It's the life we live.
It's funny thinking about the progression of like, because Graham says like we wrote songs this way or something like that, but I'd say Graham probably writes like 99.999% of all of the music, and then I'll be like, what if I did blast beats there too? And that's my contribution or whatever. But it's funny thinking back to recording that stuff and like getting to the studio, setting up the drums in the room we're gonna play the drum, gonna like record the drums in, and being like, yeah, haven't practiced any of this stuff to a click track yet. Hopefully everything is fine. And like, just like, I think that the unpreparedness in the performance, especially when I listen to that old stuff, really shines through, and it's tough for me to listen to as well. Whereas like, but that's part of learning as well. And like you're saying, always trying to get better is like hopefully you learn from the mistakes you make. And not practicing things to a click track is definitely a mistake before you record.
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I guess we talked about your old stuff. I know you've mentioned that you had like a King Crimson influence early on. Maybe I'm not going to say what you are trying to get away from and get to, but let's talk about your influences a little bit.
Okay. Dylan, why don't you hit him with your laundry list of influences?
All right. I mean, I think early on it was all about, I was like, how do you define the best drummer? It's not anything definable other than speed. So when I was in high school, I pretty much just listened to like Necrophagist and Nile and like, you know, Slayer and just like whatever the fastest, most aggressive stuff I could find was. And then, you know, Mastodon was huge for me. Early Mastodon, like, they played a free show 15 minutes away from my house when Blood Mountain came out, and that was pretty life changing. Um, you know, later on, it started turning into things like Opeth, and then more recently, pretty much, I just listened to like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath.
That's
And
kind
then
of
like
the
James
reverse
Brown.
order, right? Of what people.
I think so. Yeah.
On one on the EP which you have disowned, I definitely heard some Gojira. Is that, am I making that up, or is that
No,
okay?
that's definitely there as well. Yeah. I mean, pretty much anything that I was fast, I was into, including Gojira.
We touched upon it a little bit earlier. Ironically, I just had False Gods on. I've had Come to Grief on last year sometime, or maybe this year, but earlier on in the year. Talk about the tour, how that got started, and what you're looking forward to as far as playing new songs or old songs, or how you feel like that's going to go.
Yeah. I think the tour was initially supposed to be I think in the spring of 2020, and then obviously COVID put the kibosh on that. And then yeah, like I think I met Terry. Um, I work part time at a record shop. Um, and I think Terry came in there like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago or something, and I just met him, and obviously knew knew all about his bands, and was a fan of the bands, and hell of a guy. And then I think just kind of kept acquainted with him, and maybe would see him at shows and stuff. And then I think maybe we've just played with them once. I think we did like an I Hate God show with them.
Oh,
uh but yeah, we were it's like they've seemed to be like cultivating a cool scene up in kind of New Hampshire and Maine. And there's a really cool thing going on in Vermont that I think it would it was a really yeah, I don't know, that I was hoping to kind of get them in on, because people love them and would love to see them. So yeah, I just was talking with Chuck about doing some kind of run, and then it eventually boiled down to doing this. So yeah, I'm really excited. You know, I really love Come to Grief. Their new record is so good. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and uh, yeah, the topic of the new Come to Grief record popped up, and uh, this guy was just like, yeah, everything Terry touches is just timeless, and it's really true. It's like there's so many bands that are just kind of like a flavor of the week thing, or I don't know. But I mean, really, everything that guy touches, you're like, oh, this is gonna hold up. It's truly badass. And False Gods, I don't really know those guys other than just through the old internet and exchanging pleasantries, but their music's awesome. They seem like wonderful gents. So yeah, really excited to get back on the road. It's like this is kind of the first thing we've done as Barishi, pretty much since COVID. Like, we played a couple shows. Like we played one maybe a month ago or something, and then we did one a year ago. But yeah, that's pretty much been it in terms of like us as a band. Like we released our latest record right at the beginning of COVID. It was like right in the middle of the lockdown. So yeah, we were pretty dormant until we started, touring as the backing band.
What's going to be the split between your new stuff and your old stuff when you go out on tour?
Well, we're gonna do one song that's from the last record from Old Smoke. I think we're gonna be playing Old Smoke, the title track, and then we're doing two new songs that are gonna be coming off of the new record. So yeah, three songs, but it's I think it'll be well over 30 minets.
I was going to say at 10
They're
minutes of
long.
pop, you don't fit in too many songs.
Yeah, they're girthy. So yeah, just to kind of stick a toe into the lake and see how the new songs go. See if we get booed off the stage or not.
So you definitely answered the question that the new stuff is just as long as the stuff from Old Smoke.
Yeah, I think it's actually longer. I think or at least the average is longer. Um everything's like 8 to 10 minutes. Maybe there's one song that's like 6 or 7 or something like that. But yeah, they're all long, they're all boring. It's gonna be it's gonna be a twist turn of boring events.
The new stuff is I always heavy is such a vague term. Obviously some people find grindcore heavy or sludge heavy. Like what can we expect out of the new album? Is it sludgy? Because a lot of people call you sludge. I hear it in parts, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would definitely call you a sludge band per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the new stuff, really for me, like much more so than any kind of genre tag that's like conscious. I'm just like really trying to be a better songwriter. So I'd say firstly it's more, there are more dynamics, and I'd like to think that there are dynamics, not just like there's a loud part, then there's a quiet part. Like, there are dynamics between like kind of atonal or like diminished tonality stuff versus very melodic stuff. Dynamics between speed, dynamics between uh, you know, distorted heavy riffs and like mellow stuff. I think that was kind of what I was consciously, pushing for and trying to write better songs. I think how things came out, they're like maybe there's almost like more black metal kind of influence. Like I was listening to a lot of or like like Thinking Man's black metal, kind of like
I
Krallice
definitely hear
or
some of
something like
that
that.
I definitely hear some of that in Old Smoke.
Oh,
Some
cool.
tinges of black metal.
Yeah, and like my quote unquote singing voice, which is I well not really singing, but like I feel like that just kind of naturally has more of a black metal-y thing than
It's God, it's so funny you say that because as I was listening to your stuff, and this is probably a good segue to talk about band members and stuff. I was actually thinking that your voice is a little bit more death metal, and maybe Sasha's voice, your ex-singer, was a little bit more in that blackened vein. But maybe I'm making that up. Well, first off, talk about maybe what you think the differences are, and then I don't know anything about Sasha leaving the band, so maybe we can talk about that for a second and figure out what
Mhm.
happened there.
um yeah, I don't know. Sasha's a really, really good showman. He could like he's kind of like a little acrobat almost, like backflip, off of stuff, and
I've
he's
seen some of your live videos, so yes, definitely,
yeah,
I've seen some of that.
Yeah, he's he's a hell of a guy. But he's also like this isn't hyperbole. He's like maybe one of the best rollerbladers in the world. I mean, actually, like he's in
Legit. Yeah.
Okay.
like and not like like street stuff, kind of, and it's really, I mean, it's really unique to watch because it's very he's very inventive. There'll be like a little sewer pipe and it'll pop out of it or something. It's like he's pretty decked. And so I think being in, a band that was like ambitious, maybe took away from his skating schedule a little bit. And he and I would also, kind of butt heads creatively. And he's a loose cannon in the best way. But uh, yeah, I don't know. So that it just wasn't working,
Okay.
having him in the band. But we're still buddies. He's a
Yeah.
really good guy.
So I
He came
assume
to
it was
my
kind of mutual then.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But does he skate professionally or he's just really into it?
Maybe, yeah, I think he's like endorsed and stuff, and like if
Okay.
he goes
Okay.
to it or whatever, it's a sponsored, like.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty professional, I would say.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think at this point, like, there's a pretty low ceiling as far as uh there's not like a whole lot of money to be had in rollerblading, like
There's no
in
money in metal
comparison.
either, so
Yeah, that's very true. um like maybe in comparison to skateboarding or something like that. But yeah, I mean, he's sick. Like, I remember, like, we tour, and like once in a while these, like, kind of famous rollerbladers would like come out to shows and stuff, because like these guys who, like, kind of back when rollerblading was like, in the X Games and stuff, these guys
okay.
were kind of the rollerblading Tony Hawks, and they'd come out to shows and stuff and be like, "Oh my god, there he is," and like, we don't know anything about rollerblading, obviously, so it was just kind of funny to look into that fish tank.
I've played roller
Um,
hockey, so I definitely respect
Oh.
rollerblading, but to me, if you're not scoring goals, I'm not sure what, you know, it's kind of a joke, but whatever.
yeah,
I,
But
yeah. Sasha's like acrobatic style is definitely uh his is very like enmeshed in his rollerblading. Like he does things where like you think he like crosses both feet and then grinds on like two different rails at the same time. It's like stuff that just makes my shins feel like they're gonna break just watching it.
yeah, I
So,
could see that.
he's meant to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, love him to death.
Okay, so let's talk about your new guitarist because he's not listed on Metal Archives. Didn't really see his name on your Facebook page, although I probably missed it. Joe Nickerson, you let me know in the pre-interview. How did he get involved in the band, and how has that changed the dynamics of the band?
so we've known him for a long time, and uh yeah, he plays in a bunch of bands. He plays in Lich King. He plays in a band called Problem with Dragons. That's like kind of doomy. And so yeah, we've known him for a long time. He's really busy. He also like tour manages and drives buses and stuff. So uh right now we did one tour with him, and he did like half of the tour or something. And then we've played a handful of shows with him, but that's kind of it. So I think the reason that he doesn't, pop up on like Metal Archives, or we don't have any photos with him, is like he hasn't played on a record yet. And we also, like, it was kind of like we did that tour with him in like January or February of 2020, and then everything shut down. So it's like we didn't really have much opportunity to play for the next 2 years. And then, like, not only did we not play live, we just like didn't really practice for we've maybe practiced all together like 4 times or something in the last 2 years,
He's
if
gonna do the
that.
Come to Grief tour though.
He's gonna do the Come to Grief tour. He's flying back from the West Coast now. I think he actually just landed, and yeah, I mean, it's really liberating to have him there, because like in the past, I have always just written riffs for one guitar, and like was always trying to be pretty conscientious about being able to replicate everything that's on a record with one guitar. And I guess I always kind of felt strange about having guitar harmonies and stuff like that if it was just going to be me. But I love harmony, and I love couple guitarists flying in tandem. So yeah, it's been really liberating being able to like write for two guitars, and I think it's like exponentially enlarge the creative palette, so
You
to speak.
mentioned writing to a click track. Are you gonna play live to a click track?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because that sort of enables you to do other stuff. I mean, I saw a show recently where they were definitely playing to a click track, and where it, I'm sure some musicians would be like poop on that or whatever. You can have backing things, and not that you're trying to fake anybody out with stuff, but you can have intros and outros and other weird nuanced things.
Mhm.
If you're playing to a click, and you can have that stuff come in when you expect it to come in. Do you have any of that sort of stuff going on, or is it just to keep the time?
uh Dylan, why don't you handle this one?
Okay. Yeah. I well, we are gonna have like some samples and stuff that happen, like
Okay.
little things that will be happening. Um, I just started playing to a click track, and I just like it. I think that it's like, you know, you actually can have some wiggle room, which I think people don't necessarily think about. But beyond that, you can get the most accurate representation of what's on the album if you play to the same exact speed uh every that's like the album's recorded to, obviously. So like, even if I accidentally had one too many shot and beers, like I won't like, go off into space somewhere, and the people will see the show that they paid their hard-earned dollars to see.
Yeah.
So I think that people poo-pooing click tracks is their prerogative, and that's fine, but like I'm down with click tracks,
Yeah.
so whatever.
I just suspected that people might poop on it. I don't know that anybody's
Oh, I'm
actually.
sure they do. I'm sure if you go on the internet and you type "are click tracks bad," I'm sure you will find some information.
No.
Some information.
I don't know.
Back to the sort of doomy versus progressive versus black metal thing. Your artwork for Old Smoke is definitely doom, right? That album cover screams doom to me. So, or even stone, like even a stoner rock a little bit, which is not like. And I had somebody. I mentioned that I was going to have you guys on, and they were like, "Oh, aren't they stoner rock or something?" I was like, "No, no." But seeing the album cover, I could sort of see, oh, maybe he's just that's based on the album cover.
Yeah.
Like, how intentional was that? And by the way, I really like it. I think it's got an awesome look to it, but it's definitely screams like doom to me.
Yeah. If I'm going to be like entirely honest with you, um, the guy who did the album cover, I'm a hell of a guy. Obviously, a great, great artist. Um, and like I like it, but like I don't know. I guess I've always had a hard time like linking uh linking like our sonic aesthetic with a sense of visual aesthetic. You know, like there's some bands where it's just like they're so intertwined. You know, like
Oh, for sure.
and they're bands
Baroness.
like yeah, it's sure. Like honestly, you know, yeah, there are bands where it's like to be entirely honest, like might not be my thing, but like there's kind of like the visual aesthetic of like you know album art or posters or you know even their logo kind of like almost can carry the band like an extra step over the finish line and I'm like oh I understand that like makes sense to me, right? You know, like if that if that makes any sense. And then like yeah, so for us I still kind of feel like we haven't really um
Found.
yeah found our footing with that. And I'm not saying that in and like you know in any way trying to be disparaging to like all the people who've done art for us because like we've had a ton of super talented people who've done really cool art, but it's just like you know sometimes people will be like okay yeah like I'm gonna try to you know give you an album cover, I'm gonna try to give you a t-shirt or something that's like uh you know very harmonious with like whatever a death metal thing or a stoner thing and yeah but you know I feel like we just haven't really um yeah found our hit our stride with that and honestly that's like I'm saying that as I mean it's almost certainly my fault you know in terms of like I give you know shitty direction or I'll be like I'll fixate on someone else's album cover and I'm like you should make it kind of like this and then they do a really good job of like you know making it
Making it
like
like that.
my reference and I'm like this is fucking terrible you know like it looks too much like you know it's just like so so
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. I mean that being said like yeah I like all the album covers you know like they're all cool and stuff but yeah it's a hard thing trying to figure out you know your sound and then how that kind of you know somewhere down the line spiritually links up you know with like a visual aesthetic in a meaningful way.
And
So have you begun to think about the artwork for the next album yet? Or like,
Yeah like yeah I've been like um uh I don't know like when I was like writing some of the songs I had like a couple paintings that were uh you know from a this like American painter named Pinky Rider just kind of up on my computer screen almost to just kind of ingrain some of the vibe of the painting and you know I was like even thinking about maybe using those or something you know because they're from the 1800s so I think under
oh,
fair use.
I was gonna say I don't know that guy, but this is a and Pinky Rider doesn't sound like an 1800s type name, but is that
Yeah,
is
his name was actually William Pinkham Rider and so I think
hmm.
colloquially was Pinky and uh yeah he was a cool guy I think he was like um I want to say he was from New Bedford and then moved to New York City um but yeah anyway I don't know so I'm kind of like I guess you know we haven't really talked about it as a band so you know I should get everyone else's input but like I'm leaning towards having someone do a painting. There's an artist I really like that we were kind of talking to and we'll see if anything comes out of that. But that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at, you know.
Yeah, I have like a lot of roots. I went to art school. I have a lot of roots in graphic novels, comic books, and that stuff. So I'm like familiar with a lot of that, all that type of scene. I don't know the Pinky Rider, but I am definitely going to put that in the description for everybody to check out.
Yeah,
graphic novels are cool.
Graphic novels are cool.
I like comics a lot.
Oh, do you? What do you what are you reading? Or what do you like? What did you grow up on?
Um, you know, I think that my first introduction was into like X-Men and stuff
Okay.
like that. Like and then like the I was born in 91, so I grew up in like the Image Comics kind of boom. So that like I liked Pit.
Okay.
If you remember that, that's a pretty bad. But then later on I got like really into like Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman and Jeff Johns and Grant Morrison and all those dudes and all the stuff that you know I really dig, especially the Alan Moore Swamp Thing stuff is probably my
Okay.
favorite.
That's
And
definitely going back
and
old school.
actually Graham worked with one of the artists, Stephen Bissett's
Okay.
son for a
Okay.
while. Stephen is from Vermont, and yeah, so which I didn't know until after, and I was like, oh my god, that's who that was. What? So yeah, but anyway, I'm a big comic, well, not just comic, I'm a big nerd.
Yeah, well, I like to call it geek, and there's a big geek
Sure.
versus nerd thing going on.
All right.
Everybody's like, but yeah, no,
Yeah, that's cool. I'm
yeah,
down with
I'm
the
not.
geek.
I'm the same way. I'm very geeky in certain ways, and sadly, I'm not very nerdy in other ways. Like I just, and whatever. Well, it's just funny.
we can we can edit all this out if you want. I'm
Okay.
just kidding.
No, I don't have a problem calling myself a little geeky and not too much nerdy. I wish. I mean, I got not so hot grades in school, but if my son ever came home with the report card that I had, he'd be in real trouble. And not from me, but mostly from me. That's I get it, but she doesn't so much. But I remember what my follow-up question was going to be, because we were talking about aesthetics and stuff, and I was going to get into your videos. And I guess one of my first questions was related to maybe what your lyrical content is, but I definitely noticed in one of your videos there was definitely an occult thing going on, tarot cards and that type of stuff. So I was going to ask about, is that the filmmaker, is that you guys, and what do you normally do with that type of stuff, the meaning, the lyrics and things?
uh yeah, well, in those days with that one specifically, I think Sasha wrote the lyrics for most of that record.
Hmm.
And I think there was, I can't remember exactly. I think we didn't really, or at least I didn't even like look at what they were.
That could
To
spell
be
trouble, I
to be
imagine.
entirely honest. But I think that, that type of aesthetic is interesting and fascinating to us. I think we're all fans of like the first season of True Detective, uh, and and things that are in that vein of aesthetic. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I noticed in it, because we were talking about your artwork and what you liked and stuff, and I at least two of your videos, if not three of them, were mostly black and white. And you mentioned True Detective, and I've seen that particular series. It's very I don't want to. It's like it's got this like not voodoo thing, but it's definitely like an occult, backwoods, weird, weirdness type
Yeah,
of thing to it.
it definitely feels a little devil worshipy
Devil
for
worshiping.
sure. Which is fucking metal and cool. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I remember.
right?
It's funny. Somebody recently said how did the metal get so associated with the devil, and like who started that? And I was like, well, first off, the blues really were the devil stuff way before metal was.
Yeah.
But But yeah, what's not cool about the devil? I mean,
I
that's
don't know, dude. If it's good enough for Ozzy to sing about, then it should be good enough for everyone, you know? That's what I think.
geez, how much of the devil stuff does map back to Ozzy? Is it really that much of it? But
I don't know. I mean, there's a song about like pretty early on in the Sabbath discography. There's like, you know, straight up talking about Lucifer having a love affair with a mortal. So, you know, it can definitely it can track right back to Ozzy if you want it to.
just snowballed from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and definitely, you know, we were talking about album art. I'm quite a little bit older than you guys. I'm not going to say how much, but uh, I definitely, you know, those were the days when you went into a record store and you couldn't look stuff up on the internet, and you sort of had to figure out where you were based on artwork alone,
Yeah.
right?
And
And you know, if you made a bad pick, you just sort of had to find a friend to like pawn it off on, or you were just dubbing cassettes, you know, trying to figure out
Mm.
what you actually liked. And of course, for me, it just got more and more extreme until I, you know, fell off the side of a cliff with.
it's why every like metalhead from the 80s like had a copy of Bad Out of Hell and Nazareth, you know? It's like and
Right.
Molly Hatchet.
But I was
It's
just
like
gonna say, you picked up the Molly Hatchet record and you were like, whoa, wait, what? This is not what I was expecting here. But
yeah.
uh,
I mean, I
and
remember as a kid like seeing like Kiss figurines and I was like, man, I gotta get in on this. Like, cause you know, I don't think I'd heard my dad's like really into kind of avant-garde music and jazz and stuff. So, you know, he'd throw me a bone and like get me, you know, Led Zeppelin records or like Jimi Hendrix records. It was always very encouraging. But like I think like Kiss was way too mainstream, you know, for my parents and like but I would see it and I kind of thought it was like, you know, I was like, oh, this is like this is the evil shit, you know, like Gene Simmons is spitting blood. And then I find out that like is what my mom listens to when she's, you know, like pumping iron and curves. And it's just such a massive disappointment, you know? Like thinking
yeah,
this band that was like fucking evil is just wanna rock and roll all night. It's like, oh, letdown for me,
Yeah.
you know. You know,
I
what are you gonna do?
remember I remember finding out like my dad really thought that, and I think a lot of people did, like that Black Sabbath was like pure evil. And he was like, yeah, NIB stands for Nativity in Black, which is about like the Antichrist. And then I was reading Ozzy's autobiography, and he's just like, yeah, Geezer had a funny little beard that looked like a pen nib. So we just nib was the name of the song, and then we just put dots after it. So it's like people just
yeah.
taking things to the extreme just for for no reason.
It's funny that you
Whatever.
mentioned your dad listens to jazz, because I did catch a horn section on your first album.
Yeah. Yeah, uh that's actually John's dad playing
Oh,
saxophone
okay.
or yeah, he was our he was our high school music teacher and he was a is a saxophone player and yeah, put some wild wonky horn down on that first one. Uh yeah. But um but yeah, we all love jazz.
Yeah,
Or at
no,
least
it's
Dylan and I love jazz.
Yeah.
I have such a weird thing with jazz, because I just, when it's, there's very little of it that's dark enough for me. Not that it's got to be, but there's
It's
very
got to
little
be
of it.
dark.
It's got to be dark for me. But that's what for all music, right? Like I just like dark stuff. I mean, it just is what it is. So what I really like, I love, and then everything else, I'm just like, it's not there
Yeah.
for me.
I mean, that's on like honestly, that's me with heavy metal. Like I hate maybe 99.9% of heavy metal. You know, when you think about like, you know, when you think about the like heavy metal bands that you really like, versus what, like, you know, the broader spectrum of like the population thinks is heavy metal. It's like it's just so small, the amount of bands that are like fucking good. I mean, and I'm saying there's still a ton of great bands, but like in comparison to like what qualifies as heavy metal, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I've always had
minuscule. So,
a really weird thing because I always say that I hate heavy metal, and if you don't know the scene, you would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That's all you do is heavy metal." And I'm like, no, but I consider heavy metal like a certain subgenre of metal that is not doom or grindcore or death metal or any of this
yeah,
other
yeah,
stuff.
totally.
Like, I don't, where I respect some heavy metal bands, and at a time that's all there was, right? So like Maiden, for example, that's it's all there was, for a certain time, unless you were into the underground. And I definitely respect Maiden, but a lot of the bands that came after that, I fucking hated, like I
Yeah,
despised, and certainly as soon as I got into like the death metal and the real grinding and doomy bands, like I just can't even listen to the cheese of heavy metal anymore.
yeah.
But
I mean, like, I don't like, I guess I just, you know, like meant heavy metal as like a, you know,
the
rather
whole
than like
thing,
you know, just
just
a, I
metal in
I understand
general.
what you're saying, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, once in a while I'll be on like YouTube or something, and I'll, you know, see like a video from one of these bands who's like, you know, like a huge band that, like, you know, opens up for, I don't know, some arena band or something that qualifies as heavy metal. I'm like, holy shit, that's what the, you know, chart topping heavy metal sounds like. And it blows my mind because I'm like, this is such bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm still, it still blows my mind to be like, when people are like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I play drums in a metal band. And they're like, metal. So like screamo? And I'm like, no. But like, that is such a massive part. It's like, I'm not about to have a conversation breaking down the differences in the subgenres between like metal and screamo and emo and all of these things. It's like, so now I'm just like, yes. I'm like,
yeah,
yep, that's
Sure.
it. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
it's a wild world out there.
It's crazy.
Um. So, how many videos do you guys have, official videos?
Uh, um,
I
At least three.
Okay. I thought I
yeah,
counted
that's
four.
not.
Okay, so I was checking to see if I missed any, but
Oh
um,
no, I think you're right. Maybe there are there four.
What's the fourth one?
I got two from uh two on From Blood and two on Old Smoke, right?
Um,
Long Hunter, Entombed in Gold.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, Long Hunter. Right. I forgot that
Oh,
happened.
maybe Great Need I had twice or something. Cool. Anyway,
yeah.
how does the video thing work with Seasons of the Mist?
Uh, I think we paid for every one of those videos. Um, and you know, which is yeah, I mean, we like one of them our friend made, the or two of them friends of ours made. And then the uh the Long Hunter was made by this guy, by this like dude, who his nomiker is Chariot of the Black Moth, and makes a lot of videos for, you know, like tour trailers and
I've
stuff for a
definitely
lot of
heard of that dude before. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure, like I for some reason I want to say he's in Poland, but I that could be completely wrong.
I can't remember. He definitely did a video for another band I've had on, because I that's not a name you forget, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I definitely
yeah. But yeah, that was cool. And then, like, you know, we with him, it was like, it was really like maybe we exchanged like 8 emails or something. I was like, hey, you want to do this video? Like, here's the track. Sure, I'll do it. What kind of vibe do you want? And then he just, you know, went with it. Whereas like the video for the Great Ennead, like, you know, we were actually in it, so there was uh more involvement, obviously, and yeah, and then the one we did in for Entombed in Gold Forever, a friend of ours who's a really talented animator did that and would kind of periodically check in through the process and be like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And give them.
Yeah, I saw that video. It was pretty cool because some of it, a CGI can be really cringy sometimes, and certainly get dated very quickly, as and obviously you can't do Pixar level CGI, at least 2020 Pixar CGI, like on a metal budget, right?
Yeah.
But I think he definitely does things where you're like, oh, it doesn't look too CGI. Like it's very dark in places. So, with the eyes and stuff, I thought it was pretty cool, that video.
Cool. Thanks.
One last question I have on my sheet. You crowdsourced one of your early things. I know that you said you didn't like that stuff, but I'm sure for a lot of bands who are trying to do stuff, I'm certainly interested in how that worked out.
Yeah, I think we did that
For the EP, I think it was. I thought it was.
I thought it was for a van.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think it was for a van.
Oh, maybe
God, feels so long ago. I mean, but it's probably
That
around
was
that
so
time.
long ago. I think we crowdsourced for a van and did a tour when the EP was out or something like
Okay,
that.
so
So
it
it was
wasn't to
definitely
pay
around
for
the
the
time of
pressing,
the
it was to pay for the tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that ever got pressed.
Okay,
Yeah.
The EP. I think, yeah, we got this like shitbox Rust van, and then like the first gig of the tour was in LA. So we drove from Vermont to LA.
that sounds brutal.
To start the tour.
Yeah, we had like, I remember at one point, we were in New Mexico in like the middle of nowhere, and we pulled over on the side of the highway to sleep, and the fuel line like came off at some point in the night, and like I remember I was like taking a piss or something, and Dylan was pulling the van around. I just saw it spraying gas everywhere, and I remember calling AAA to try to get it towed to like Albuquerque or something.
Yeah, it
And
was
the
100
lady,
miles away.
yeah, and the lady's like, no, like if there's gas involved, you need to get the fire department to like approve it. And so I, was trying to find like the number for the fire department. I called like a number that just didn't exist. And I eventually just was like, fuck it. Like I'm gonna call 911. And I called 911, and it went to like a guy's like personal phone. It was like, this is Leroy, and if there's an issue, I mean we'll see what we can do. And I was like, that's amazing. So yeah, that was a magical little van. But yeah, I think the crowdsourcing, I mean, it worked.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not like,
how much were you able to raise with that?
oh God, I can't remember. Probably like,
I think less than, I think it was like I think it was less than 3,000. I think it was like between 1 and 2. And it was great. Yeah.
That's a chunk.
Yeah, man. It was good.
Yeah. It's funny, like I feel like that's a really, I don't know, it's kind of like like crowdsourcing in music seems like a faux pas or something for some reason, which like, ethically I don't really understand why it would be. Like I know it's not like sexy to kind of have to go out there and beg or whatever, but it's
do a lot
also
more
like
shameless shit than that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's fun. I remember doing like a couple interviews, and people were like, "Wow, like you were crowdsourcing, like what an asshole," or something.
Yeah,
that's
that was weird.
I didn't expect that to go there, but it did.
Interesting. Like, okay.
Yeah, it was something about like being signed and doing crowdsourced things at the same time. They were like wondering what the ethics of that were, and it was like,
yeah,
well,
we
that
weren't
was before we got. Yeah, exactly. I was like, that was before we got signed.
Yeah.
So But, yeah.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Do you have a date when you're thinking the new album might be out? Like you haven't started recording it, right?
Nah,
Okay.
no, we haven't. We're like right now kind of in the process of getting those logistical wheels spinning. But I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's probably not going to be for a while because like shit's just so backed up with like, you know, I think years for some labels in terms of like getting a record and then being able to press it just because, the pandemic and then the general demand for vinyl has just pushed things back, and then like I think labels are reluctant to do like a vinyl pressing way after a digital release or something like that. So
You
but I
guys
mean,
are still gonna stay with Season Mist?
yeah, I we'll see. I think so.
Okay.
I don't think I'm not entirely sure what's going on. We're actually in the process of figuring that out. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to. They're nice people over there. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay, and just I guess we'll close it out soon. We're sort of getting that time. Do you have any shout outs? Anything else you want to mention? Bands we should check out? Things in the Vermont scene we might not know about?
Bands you should check out. Yeah,
Satcham.
Yeah, they're a really good band. From up north. Yeah, there's like Vermont's had for as small as it is, it's like surprisingly fertile when it comes to metal bands. Yeah, so Sachem, up north, really solid. Let's see, in Brattleboro, I kind of have lost track of like who's active versus who is inactive. I think Jeopardy's still making things happen. They're like a thrash band that's really cool. Witch, of course, is from Brattleboro, and Titans. Let's see.
Is Keef Catcher still rolling
Keith,
up there?
of course, yeah. And then uh really cool band from Maine that I think should be on people's radar is this band called Shabti. Really sick.
Okay.
And like I think they might share some members or a member with Falls of Roros, which is a band that's deservedly getting a lot of praise, or has for the last few years. But a band that seems to kind of still be flying under the radar a little bit is Shabti from Portland, and they're fucking killer.
Okay.
I don't really know
how to
those guys.
spell that, but I will figure it out and put it in the description.
Shabti.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for coming on and shooting the shit for as long as you guys did. I really appreciate it. And good luck with the tour and everything.
Yeah, man. Thanks so
Thanks.
much for having us.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you.
Later,
Cool.
everybody.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.